I never told my son how much money I made, even though my monthly salary was $40,000. He always saw me living simply. No fancy house, no designer clothes, no expensive vacations. To him, I was just an ordinary woman who worked in an office and came home tired every day. I never corrected him. I wanted him to see me as a hardworking mother, not someone defined by money. One day, my son, Marcus, invited me to dinner. His wife's parents were visiting from another country, and they wanted to meet me. The way he asked made me uneasy. His voice wasn't proud or excited, it was nervous, almost pleading. When I asked if they knew anything about me, he said he told them I was simple, that I lived alone and didn't have much. That word, simple, hit me like a slap. It was as if my whole life could be summed up in one small, pitiful word. Still, I agreed to come. That Saturday, I decided to give them exactly what they expected to see. I dressed in an old, wrinkled gray dress, worn shoes, no jewelry, and carried a faded tote bag. I wanted to see how they would treat someone they thought was poor. The restaurant was fancy, the kind where prices aren't even on the menu. When I walked in, I saw Marcus, dressed sharply, looking tense. His wife, Simone, looked beautiful but cold. Her parents, Veronica and Franklin, were sitting like royalty, dripping in jewels and confidence. When I approached, Veronica looked at me from head to toe, her eyes full of quiet judgment. She shook my hand lightly, cold and quick. Her husband gave a fake smile. I sat down at the end of the table, unnoticed. No one offered to help me or asked if I was comfortable. When the waiter brought the menus, written in French, I pretended not to understand. Veronica smiled sweetly, but with poison behind her words. "Don't worry," she said. "I'll order something simple for you, nothing too expensive." Throughout dinner, Veronica talked about money, hotels, jewelry, cars, vacations, investments. She bragged about everything they owned, waiting for me to look impressed. I just smiled and nodded politely. Then she began asking about me, what I did for work, if I lived alone, if I managed to survive on my small salary. Every word dripped with pity and superiority. She even mentioned helping Marcus and Simone buy their house and pay for their honeymoon, then asked if I had given them anything. I said I gave them what I could, a small gift. She smiled with fake kindness. "That's sweet," she said, pretending to mean it. Finally, she made her real offer. She said she and her husband could help me by sending a small allowance every month, $500 or maybe $700, so I wouldn't burden my son. In return, she wanted me to stay away and not bother them too much. They wanted to buy my distance. I stayed quiet for a moment, then I asked, "So, $700 for me to disappear?" Veronica looked shocked. I smiled. "Interesting. You gave $40,000 for their house and $15,000 for their honeymoon, and you think my worth is $700? The table went silent. Then I told her the truth. I explained that I wasn't a poor woman. I told him I'd built my life from nothing, working as a secretary, raising my son alone, studying at night, climbing every step until I became the regional director of a multinational company. I told him I earned $40,000 every month for years. Veronica froze. Simone gasped. Marcus stared at me, speechless. When he asked why I never told him, I said because I wanted you to value effort, not money. Simone whispered, asking why I still lived so simply. I smiled, because I don't need to prove anything. True wealth doesn't shout. I looked at Veronica and said, I pretended to be poor to see how you would treat me. Now I know. Her face turned red. I placed my corporate credit card on the table and told her dinner was on me. Consider it a gift from the poor mother you tried to buy off. She said she didn't need my money. I replied softly, and I never needed your pity. Then I stood up, looked her straight in the eye, and said, money can buy comfort, but it can't buy class, respect, or kindness. You have wealth, but you have none of those. The silence that followed was deafening. And in that moment, everyone finally saw me, not as a poor old woman, but as someone who had earned everything without showing off a thing. I let my son make his own choices, his life, his wife, his path, because that's what love really is. It's not about control, not about money, and not about forcing people to live the way you want. It's about giving them the freedom to grow. Marcus came closer, his eyes full of regret. Mom, please forgive me, he said, his voice trembling. Forgive me for never asking, for assuming, for thinking you were someone else. I hugged him tightly. You don't have to be sorry, son. I had my reasons. I wanted you to stand on your own, to value the right things, not to depend on my money. I wanted you to build your own future. He nodded, tears in his eyes. I thought I needed to protect you, he said quietly. You seemed fragile. I know, I answered softly, and that wasn't wrong. It just meant you learned to care, to worry, to feel for others. That's something money can never teach. Marcus cried harder, holding me as if afraid to let go. Veronica, his mother-in-law, stood stiff and angry. This doesn't change anything, she said coldly. You lied to us. You came here pretending, with bad intentions. Yes, I replied calmly. I acted. I played a role, just like you do every single day. Franklin, her husband, frowned. What do you mean by that? It means, I said, that you hide behind your wealth, behind your jewels, your vacations, your fancy lifestyle. But inside, you have nothing. No real joy, no depth, no kindness. All you have is money. Veronica laughed bitterly. You're one to talk. You lied all night. Maybe, I said, but my lie revealed the truth. Your truth. Now you can't hide from it. I saw how you looked at me, what you thought of me. I'll remember every word you said. The waiter appeared nervously. Would you like anything else? Just the check, Franklin said sharply. We sat in silence. Veronica finally spoke again, her voice quieter. Ara, I don't want this to destroy our families. Marcus and Simone love each other. We can fix this. Fix it, I repeated. Mean cover it up. It's too late. We all saw who you really are. Franklin tried to defend her. You came here lying. You caused this. I did, I admitted, because I needed to be sure. I needed to confirm what I already guessed. You judge people by what they own, not by who they are. Veronica looked down, her pride gone. The waiter placed the check on the table. She looked at my black card and said, We'll pay. We don't need your charity. Fine, I said, pushing the card towards her. Keep it as a reminder that not everything is what it seems. Franklin's card was declined. Then another one. He went pale, muttering about bank errors. I said nothing, only nodded. Finally, I paid with a transparent metal card. Veronica's eyes widened when she recognized the centurion. The waiter handled it with care. Thank you, Miss Sterling, he said respectfully. Veronica said nothing. I stood up. Dinner was wonderful, I said. And thank you for showing me who you are. You saved me a lot of time. Veronica glared at me. You can't just humiliate us and walk away. We'll still be family. You're right, I said, smiling softly. But now every time we meet, you'll remember this night. The night you learned what real class looks like. Outside, Marcus walked beside me. Mom, I can't believe everything, he said quietly. You don't have to, I replied. Just understand why I did it. I wanted you to see the truth. He nodded slowly. You're amazing, he whispered. I'm just honest, I said. That's something money can't buy. Later in the taxi, I looked out the window as the lights of the city passed by. My heart felt lighter. The driver noticed my silence. Rough night? He asked kindly. You could say that, I replied. He nodded. Well, you seem calm. That means you did the right thing. The truth always gives peace. I smiled faintly. My parents grew up poor, she continued, her voice trembling. They lived in a small town overseas without electricity or running water. As children, they worked in the fields. They saw their parents die young because there was no medicine, no money. They went hungry, they suffered, and they swore they would never live like that again. They promised they would escape that life, no matter what it took. I nodded slowly. That explains a lot, I said softly. They worked non-stop, Simone said. They saved every coin, and when they finally moved here, they built everything from nothing. My father created his business with his bare hands, and when money started coming in, they never forgot what it felt like not to have it. That's why they talk about money constantly. To them, it isn't greed, it's safety. It's their shield against the fear of losing everything again. It makes sense, I said. Pain can shape people in strange ways. Simone nodded. But it still doesn't excuse what they did to you. I saw everything that night. The comments, the looks, the small insults. I stayed quiet, like I always do. I've been trained to stay quiet, to accept their control, to believe that disagreeing means betrayal. And now? I asked. Now I see I was wrong, she said firmly. Love isn't control. Family doesn't mean blind obedience. I can care for them without accepting their behavior. You and Marcus helped me see that. That night at the restaurant felt like someone finally removed a blindfold from my eyes. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I always knew something was off, but I convinced myself I was too sensitive. I thought I didn't understand the world. But you showed me there's another way to live, a way where money doesn't define a person's value, where kindness matters more than wealth. I took a sip of water. Simone, I didn't say those things to change you. I just needed to protect myself. I know, she said softly, but your honesty woke me up. You saved me from becoming like my mother, from teaching my future children that worth is tied to possessions. I don't want that life. How are your parents now? I asked. They're angry, she sighed. My mother hasn't spoken to me in days. My father said I chose outsiders over family and that I'll regret it someday. But the strange thing is, I don't feel guilty. I feel free. That's how you know you did the right thing, I said. She nodded. Marcus and I have set boundaries. We told them they can be part of our lives only if they respect us and stop using money to control us. If they can't, then we'll keep our distance. How did they take it? Badly, she admitted. They called us ungrateful. My father even threatened to cut me off financially. It made me realize that they truly believe their worth lies in their bank account. They have everything but joy. They just collect things, but they don't live. She looked at me with tearful eyes. Mother-in-law, I want to learn from you. Teach me how to live with dignity, how to have peace without needing to prove anything, how to be strong without being cruel. I smiled gently. I can't teach you that. You'll learn it through life, by falling, by standing up again. I can only tell you this. Stay true to your values. The road will be hard, but peace is worth more than gold. I want to try, Simone said. I want to live honestly, without fear, without pretending. Then start small, I advised. Question your choices. Ask yourself, is this for me or to impress others? That's how real change begins. Do you think my parents will ever change? She asked. I don't know, I said truthfully. People can only change if they admit something is wrong. And your parents don't believe they're wrong, but you can break that pattern. I will, she promised, with Marcus, and maybe with your guidance too. You don't need my guidance, I said kindly. Just listen to your inner voice, the one you've ignored for years. It will guide you. Simone wiped her last tears and smiled weakly. Thank you for your honesty and patience. There's nothing to thank me for, I said. Just promise me this. When you have children, teach them kindness, empathy, and respect, things that can't be bought. I promise, she whispered. We hugged, a real warm hug. No masks, no pretending. When she left, she looked lighter, as if she had shed years of weight. I sat back on my sofa, looked around my small apartment, and smiled. It wasn't grand or fancy, but it was filled with peace. And in that moment, I knew I had everything I truly needed. I never needed more than what I already had. My life was simple, and for the first time, that simplicity felt like the greatest luxury of all. My phone buzzed softly, breaking the quiet of the evening. It was a message from Marcus. Mom, Simone told me about her visit. Thank you for being kind to her, for hearing her out, and for giving her a chance. I love you more than I can ever say. I smiled, feeling warmth spread through my chest. I typed back, I love you too, my son. Always. Then I set the phone aside and turned my gaze toward the window. The sky outside was glowing in shades of orange, pink, and gold as the sun slowly dipped behind the buildings. The world seemed calm, as if time itself had paused to rest. In that quiet moment, something became clear to me. True wealth had nothing to do with bank accounts or expensive possessions. It wasn't about cars, houses, or jewelry. It was about feeling content, being at peace with yourself, and appreciating what you already had. It was about surrounding yourself with people who were real, people who loved you without conditions, and being able to look at your reflection and feel proud of the person you had become. Veronica and Franklin had everything that money could buy: properties, luxury trips, and power. But they were missing what mattered most. They didn't have peace. They didn't know what it meant to sit quietly and feel grateful just for being alive. They chased wealth their whole lives, yet they never found happiness. Meanwhile, I had less, yet I felt richer than ever. I had my freedom, my truth, my son's love, and that was priceless. I realized I didn't need to pretend anymore. I didn't have to hide where I lived or who I was. I didn't need to prove anything to anyone. I had faced my fears, spoken my truth, and let go of the weight that others had put on me. The masks were gone. I was finally living honestly, without shame or fear. Veronica and Franklin would probably stay the same, wealthy in money, empty in spirit. But their choices were no longer my concern. I had learned the lessons life wanted to teach me. I had seen through appearances, faced judgment, and come out stronger. I had built a quiet kind of strength that no amount of money could buy. As the last light faded, I whispered to myself, "This is enough." I was a mother, a worker who had survived heartbreak and disappointment. I had built my life with integrity and courage. I was rich, not in gold or possessions, but in peace, love, and self-respect. And that was everything I ever needed. I leaned back in my chair, listening to the sounds of the evening city, the laughter of children, the hum of cars, the whisper of the wind. My heart was full. For the first time in a long while, I felt complete. I didn't just have a home, I was home within myself.